Hello YouTube, welcome to Unit 14 Garage. I've got a pretty extensive task list to do today. I'm going to try to get everything on it knocked out. Let me show you what I've got going on. Alright, so this is my task list. I'm not going to go in any particular order with it. I'm probably going to start with torquing the intake and then carb spacer and then just bounce around until I get everything done or close to done. The only thing I probably won't finish up today is getting the brace for the steering column. Anyway, so I bought these headlights off of eBay. They've got amber LEDs around the outside of it. So that's the bottom and top. So that's in the right orientation. Anyway, my headlight buckets, they don't quite fit in there. So they don't mount flush. I can't get my retaining rings on. So I'm gonna have to cut a pretty good bit around this edge. Once I get the first one cut, which will be kind of a slow process, I'll have a template for how much I need to cut off of the rest of them. Let's see here. Milled down this carb spacer. It was originally an inch thick. It's actually the first part I messed with on a Bridgeport machine, which is a manual mill. Turned out quite well. There's like maybe 5 to 7 thousandths of a difference between each of the corners. And it's between one corner and the other. The carb spacer itself was warped a little bit, and when I milled it on one side and then flipped it and took most of the meat off of it, that's where I ended up with a little bit of imbalance. But the gasket will make up for that. It's not that big of a deal. Let's see, what else. I am going to put another coat of red paint on these guys. They've been sitting in my storage unit painted like that for quite a while now. And they've got a few little imperfections, and I'm just going to shoot a coat of paint over it. That way you can't really see it. Anyway, once I make some progress, get some stuff put together, I'll show you what I got going on. Alright, so I got my tools laid out for removing that carb spacer and the carburetor. I'm gonna install this guy, and the reason being is I want to gain a little more clearance between the top of that carb hat and that bottom line of the firewall. Once I get the carb off, before I put that new spacer in, I'm going to torque down my intake manifold properly. Right now I've got it snug, but I haven't put a torque wrench on it yet. And this right here is my torque sequence for the intake. So it says to torque it in 5-pound increments following that sequence. My torque wrench only goes down to 20 foot-pounds, so I'm going to start off at 20 foot-pounds and go up 25, 30, and up to 35. And then I'm going to make laps around it in that sequence until none of my bolts turn. And that is the proper way to torque this intake down on a small block 350. Anyway, once I get to that, I will show you at least one lap around it, how it's supposed to be done. So something's kind of weird for me, and I'm sure it's probably weird for some of y'all too, with the exception of old van owners, is being inside the vehicle doing engine work. I mean, for me, that's an oddity. Usually I catch myself leaning over the hood, or not hood, but the core support or one of the fenders to reach hardware and stuff, and that's next to impossible with this truck. So I'm sitting in my driver's seat right now removing the aft bolts on my carburetor, and it's like, it's different. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that weirdness with y'all. Anyway, so now I've got my carb spacer that I had installed off of it, and this is a side-by-side, and you can see that's a pretty significant difference. Anyway, I just want to share that with you too. Anyway, once I get to torquing down this intake, I'll show you that process. Alright, so I've got the intake torqued down, all the water lines going to it torqued down, got the carb installed along with the milled down spacer. Fixing to move along to the headlight buckets. I'm going to cross those few items off my list that I've completed and move on to something else after I knock out those headlight buckets. I'll give y'all an update once I start cutting on them and I get the first one completed. Alright, so I got the holes in my headlight buckets enlarged so they'll clear my swoopy lights. I'm fixing to shoot some spray paint on them. That way I can seal up the ends where I was sanding on them. So I used a angle grinder to cut the little tabs off to protect the electrical connector, and then I walked them into their diameter with a belt sander. Anyway, I'm gonna shoot some paint on them, and once I get that done, I'll show you what I've got after that. Alright, 3 coats of paint later, and this is what I'm looking at. I'm gonna give them about 45 minutes to an hour to dry, and then once they've done that, I'll install them. Alright, I've got my headlight buckets in. Got this little aluminum bracket made for the lower portion of my grill. I got another one on the other side, and I've also got the headlight buckets in on that side. I'm about to take and install the headlights here in just a moment. Once I get them in, I'll get back to you and show you what she looks like with it. Oh my god, I'm so happy about this little accomplishment. This girl's looking pretty. Man, it makes me feel so much better about the appearance of my truck, you know, when it's coming along. I'm not gonna run factory style blinkers. Those headlights, they have amber LEDs wrapped around both sides of them, right here and right here, and I'm gonna wire them up with a blinker resistor to the factory blinker relay. I'm gonna do it like that on both sides, and I might even go as far as to put a delay on the 2 inboard to the 2 outboard, so the inboard will come on first and then the outboard will come on a few milliseconds later. That way it's kind of like the 05 and newer Mustangs. You know, it gives kind of a direction. Anyway, I'm fixing to cut up some aluminum plate or flat bar, and I'm gonna pull this piece out. I'm gonna mount them up under here. That way it lifts the back of the seat up a little bit. And I'm also gonna drill some holes in that. I don't believe I'm gonna make it to my steering column today. As much as I'd love to, I don't think that's in the cards for right now. Maybe I'll get out here and mess with it tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. Either way, I'm gonna get after it, knock out those spacers, and see what happens next. Alright, so I've got 95% of what I wanted to accomplish done. You see that piece of 3/16 steel plate? So that is the gusset that is going to hold the crossbar, which is going to be a 2x2 piece of 1/8 inch wall square tubing. It's going to extend over to here, and that's what I'm going to mount my steering column to. And that's also going to be a structural point for my cage. And that's the last thing on my list that I wanted to do. I actually would have liked to have got the crossbar in. However, it's dark outside. I've had enough. I've got to clean up my mess, and then I'm getting the hell out of here and go home, drink a few beers, enjoy the rest of my evening. Man, it's awesome looking at this thing with the headlights in it. Granted, they're not wired up, but having the grill insert, headlight bezels, headlights, buckets, and all that good stuff mounted up and right, man, makes me feel good about it. The only thing that's not right about it is they're not adjusted, but I won't be able to do that until I get the truck running, able to move it around, get it on a level surface, perpendicular to a wall, and then I'll adjust them from there. Anyway, that's all I've got for you. Thanks for watching, and y'all have a good rest of your day. Bye.